Hello, everyone. Welcome back, and welcome back again to Sean Seurattan, episode 5 and episode 2. Same guest star. This is fantastic. How you doing today, Sean?
I'm doing amazing. Thanks you again for having me back, Nick. I felt like we were a little bit incomplete last time. We covered a lot of the bases, but I think we're gonna have some good time then delving a little deeper beneath the surface this time.
I agree, and that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk more about you. Last time we focused on your book, The Sanity Thief, first volume in the Seeker series. Which, again, if you're listening to this, I cannot recommend highly enough. But today we're going to jump off, and
Thank
I
you.
just want to. We talked about last time, and your favorite magic system was, if I'm not mistaken, from The Magicians, the TV show, right?
Len
Yeah,
Grossman. I couldn't
yeah,
remember it. I couldn't believe I couldn't remember the author, but it's Len Grossman. And
yeah.
yeah,
I do that
that was
I do that all the time. I constantly forget authors, and then I'm searching for the names, and I'm like, I can't. I talk
yeah.
about it all the time. I can't believe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well,
Uh,
it's almost
but
commendable for you because I think I post 8 books in a week. That's bonkers. That is bonkers. How you can
I
keep that all together is a wonder to me.
I have a reputation amongst my friends for reading too much. Not too much, reading too fast, and they're like, "Oh, we don't know how you do it." I'm like, "I just sit down." But it also helps
Yeah,
that I don't have anything going on right now, so I can just afford to
right.
sit here and do nothing but read.
Yeah, right, right.
Um, But if we're talking about Len Grossman, we're talking about authors, we gotta talk about you, and last time I don't think we touched on this too much, but, when, what were some of your earliest, influences for writing? What would you say got you into writing?
So my first interest in writing obviously was reading because I had the blessing to be exposed to a lot of literature from a very young age. My mom was very influential and impressional, giving the impression that education and knowledge is the key to all life. And I've lived with that kind of mantra in my head the entire time. So reading was always super fun to me. She taught me to read with comic books, funny enough. She was Her father owned a bookstore in Trinidad, so she was surrounded by literature for her entire life. So reading has been something that's kind of in our DNA. So with that, I already had a true passion for the creative. Like I mean, she introduced me to a lot of stuff, like a lot of things in terms of like science and stuff. Like instead of movie posters, I had pit posters of the elemental table in my room, and like you know what I mean. So it
Sure.
was like that kind of level of immersion. But I always had a passion for the creative, and I think I really tested and dipped my toe into the water of creative writing in high school, and I took a creative writing course. I had fast tracked through high school. I had already graduated before grade 12. So I was kind of just picking like fun courses, to be honest. I was like, I'll take this creative writing course. This seems fun. Let me see what
Yeah.
this is about. And then in that creative writing course, I had an amazing teacher. Big up Miss Dorothy Palmer if you're out there anywhere. Big up to you. And she really kind of supported my creative nature and gave me a palette to work with. And I was like, oh, I could do this. And at that time, it was my fun, most favorite thing to do. It was always my favorite class to be to at each day. But since then, since high school, it kind of drifted away as life starts piling responsibilities onto you. Some of the fun things kind of fade away. And it didn't really come back until I would say about maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I started working for the Toronto Caribbean newspaper. And they asked me to be a contributor to the paper. And it reignited a passion for me in writing again. So I'd been writing for the Toronto Caribbean newspaper, covering events for them, doing editorials, things like that. And that's when I happened to come upon and meet my co-collaborator and co-creator of the Seeker series, Laura Jeffrey. And from there, that's where all of it just kind of blossomed into the Sanity Thief.
That's incredible, and I will say there is a lot of value in a good creative writing teacher. I think they have the power to inspire. If there's any creative writing teachers out there, you don't know the impact you have. You are a star among stars. Um,
Absolutely. Out of all my teachers in all my my educational career, the only ones I remember were my English teachers. What do you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Biggest connection with. That's always who I had the biggest connection. So
and
crazy.
having a connection with an educator is so much more impactful, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a teacher, but they even teach that in teachers college. They say you should build relationships, and if you've done it correctly, and much like Dorothy Palmer, you're remembered however many years later, and you're still going. You mentioned you work for the Caribbean newspaper. That's a very interesting point because so far we've had a lot of people we've talked about on this series. We talked about people who write, romantasy, fiction, comic books, choose your own adventure, but we haven't had anyone who comes on who's a professional writer in the sense that they are writing current events. What would you say your experience as a reporter or an events coverer? What would you say that's been like as a writer and being involved in the culture of Toronto?
Oh man, it has been invaluable. It is absolutely one of my favorite things that I've done in recent memory, and probably for a long chunk of my long-term memory. Like this has been a lot of fun because of the fact that it puts me in contact with the community so connectively. And I feel like I can really be a benefit to them. It doesn't feel like I'm being a vulture and just kind of hovering around for content. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like I'm giving them a platform that they might not otherwise have. So I look for those type of experiences and look for those type of topics and subjects to cover so that I feel that not only am I getting to utilize my talents, but I'm getting to highlight and showcase your talents and your things that you're special about. And the way that the community has responded to me by doing that is just enlightening because people feel like they can come to me with stories and issues and cool things. And it's enriched my life to no end. So being a writer and being able to give voice to people who may not have a voice or kind of giving that ambiance to an experience, it's a joy to me. It's a joy to me. And I really hope it expressed itself through the love that I have for writing, through Sanity Thief and through my other works. You know what I mean? I really hope people can hear my voice when they are reading my words, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That actually brings up a follow-up question that I was just thinking about. Um, there's 2 different types of writing. There's creative writing and then there's factual writing. Do you find that sometimes when you're writing things like Sandy Thief, sometimes you have to play up the creative elements a little bit more than you would for, say, covering an event in the community?
Yeah, you kind of do a little bit. I try not to embellish too much because I don't want it to take away from the genuinity of what I'm talking about. But it's 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 a balance. So when you're doing something truly creative, I try to bring in elements of realism so that
Mhm.
it has some type of tether to there's something that you can relate to here. Even though it might be about dragons or about spiritual supernatural powers or superpowered supervillains, it could be anything. There is something real here. And I try to do that. And similarly, when I'm writing about something factual, I try and use words and I try and use phrases and I try and use tone that will give this maybe somewhat boring story a little bit of oomph and it gives it a little bit of feeling and flavor. So I pull from both sides to help both sides. And I find that very helpful. And I mean, choosing the balance can be challenging at times, but in the end, it's worth it because you get that element. And again, you get that kind of tether that, wow, this may be a real event. There are still some kind of fun, mythical fantasy, maybe creative type elements that you can look at this lens, that you can use the lens to look at. And then similarly on the fantasy side, there are some realism type lenses that you might want to look through while analyzing the story.
Those are excellent points, and you make an excellent um, case for the cause of realism in fantasy. And the Sanity Thief is obviously based in realism, being a book about trials and tribulations that some people might go through the lens of a comic book. Um, when you talk about tethers, uh, and your understanding of putting a lens on things. Growing up, with comic books and with the culture that you were raised in,
Mhm.
were there any specific examples of things that you found related more heavily to you than say, um, like, what am I trying to say here? Than say like things that were a little bit too far fetched, like the idea of Superman being raised in the country is not the same as a young man from Toronto. They're 2 very different lifestyles, right? So
Right, right,
was there
right.
something that really spoke to you when you were growing up that kind of really pushed you into the understanding of comic books as a form of major literature?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think with a lot of those stories, especially those creative stories that I grew up around, uh, there were always human elements that I could look to connect with and relate to. Like like again with the Superman analogy that you're using, the Superman kind of thing that I related to was the outsider kind of analogy. The outsider inside, living inside of a facade sometimes. And that essentially was kind of my first interaction with the imposter syndrome. I felt like an outsider a lot of the time in a lot of the communities that I was in. I didn't look the same. I didn't act the same. I didn't have the same background. I didn't eat the same food. Like, so it felt sometimes very strange in certain environments where I might have been one or only two of people who look like me and who came from a culture that I came from. So I really related to Superman feeling like that outsider. I'm from somewhere else, but he has to pretend like he's all like all these other people. You know what I mean? So those kind of
Right.
aspects really touched home for me. And and if we go keep on DC going with Batman, the not having any powers but being powerful, that I related to. Like I knew that even though I might not have all of these gifts that maybe other people take for granted, I can still be as effective, if not more so, if I just really try hard. And that's what Bruce Wayne does. He tries hard. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's his
Yeah.
superpower. That's the superpower. So there were definitely aspects of the very fantastical stories that were had very real bases and like you said, tethers to me in the real world. And being able to connect with those people and have kind of a vent to be like, okay, I know that this is not the first time this is happening to anybody. Look, it even happens to these guys. So
Mhm.
and they're paragons of virtue in most cases. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So if it happened to
Yeah.
them, it can happen to me, and that's okay. And that made a lot of things easier, and it made my connections and my relationships with these characters very integral.
Mhm. And I'm sure you're not alone in that respect because they I believe these characters are meant to make people I what was Stan Lee said something great about Spider-Man once. I think it was that, Spider-Man wears a full bodysuit because any kid can be Spider-Man, which I think is a very
Yes.
powerful statement.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Man, I count my blessings that I was able to go and see Stan Lee at Fan Expo the last time. That it was one
Yes.
of his
Oh,
last appearances. I got to go with my kids. They got to see Stan Lee. Like, oh man, I count my blessings every night for that one, brother. He's the author of my dreams, for sure.
that
He's the author
must
of the
have been
dreams.
something insane. I wish I could have made it to Fan Expo to see Stan Lee.
Mhm.
You mentioned there, with your kids, do you find that as a father, are you, open or not what am I trying to say? Do you try and guide your kids to more of the interest you had as a child, like for like comic books and reading and literature, or are you open to not letting them, but open for them finding it through their own way?
You know what? I would have loved to have been the latter part of that and been like, I just let them found it and they found comics themselves and we came together in a unit in a harmony. No,
Yeah.
I'm done with comics. Small. The same way my mom taught me to read, I was their first introduction to any type of literature was comics and were those things. And they fell in love with it just as quickly as I did. They were little partners hanging out, going to every Comic Con with me every year for as long
Nice.
as they thought it was cool until they turned about teenage. And then they're like, I don't hang out with my dad anymore.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting a little cringy, but they still love it. They still like I could ask them any superhero character and they'll give me their real name, their secret identity, everything. So
Nice. Oh,
they know it inside and out, but they did I really what I wanted to do though, similar to them with music, is I really just tried to open their, experiences as much as I can. I tried to offer them as much as I could. I didn't just only let them listen to the music that I listen to. I didn't just only let them read the comics I wanted or books that I wanted to. It was really just to encourage a love of art and a love of the creative and a love of reading and writing, you know what I mean? So, now they kinda do their own thing. My son is very much a manga guy now, like way beyond
nice.
me, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
he's very, very much a manga guy. My daughter, she's a little bit, more non-fictional. She enjoys some of the more fictional stuff. She's, just graduated, from Waterloo with her degree in psychology.
Oh,
So,
wow, very
uh
nice. Congratulations.
yes,
Yeah. Well
thank
done.
you. So, she's going a little bit more on the non-fictional side, which is fine, you know what I mean? I appreciate it. I learned a lot of my reading through Encyclopedia Britannica, like, so I get getting reading those types of documents and stuff like that. So, but definitely my end goal was always just to leave the door open for them. My job is my mom created the key. My job is to find the door, and their job is to take us beyond it. You know what I mean? So that's my legacy. That's what I'm trying to do.
Very nice. Yeah. Um, I'm glad you brought that. That did bring something to mind for me. I this is supposed to be about you, but I'm gonna share this with you. When
Sure.
growing up, my dad had 3 tattoos.
Okay.
He had Spider-Man on this arm, he had a web with me and my brother's name on this arm, and on the back of his right calf, he had Spider-Man and Venom from Todd McFarlane's Maximum Carnage run. Yeah. He was gonna get yeah, he was gonna get Carnage, but he didn't have enough space. And one of the things I remember my dad giving me when I was younger is he got this from his brother, but it was, the original trade paperback of Batman: Death in the Family with Jason Todd.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
still have it.
mhm.
I believe it's
Amazing.
downstairs. I still have it.
Yeah, don't let go.
Yeah.
That's an heirloom, my brother. That's an
Yeah.
heirloom.
I wish I had as a as a 10-year-old taken a little bit better care of it. It was roughed up before I got it, but it is also now 40 years old. Um,
Mhm.
but that and I'm sure your kids can, reflect on this is that first comic book that you get, like that first superhero you're introduced to, never really leaves you, right? Like
No,
for me,
no.
Batman. Batman is my go-to. If you look around this room, I have here, I'll show you this. This is this is a piggy bank I've had for about 15 years, and he's Batman, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, that never really leaves you. So,
No,
I'm
no.
glad that your kids still enjoy comic books enough to be able to, reflect on that.
They do, they
Um,
do.
it's such an important thing to have, shared interests with family, right? And that's something
Mhm, mhm.
we can't put a price on. Um, I wanna talk to you quickly about you made a point a few points ago about, um, feeling like an outsider. Now,
Mm,
obviously, Toronto has changed a lot
yeah, a lot.
in the last 10 years even,
Even.
and now you're embroiled in the culture in such a way through the newspaper.
Mhm.
Um, do you find that, because of that, Toronto has become more of a welcome and opening place over the past and being embroiled in that culture, do you find that Toronto has improved in that case in being a multicultural city and celebrating that multiculturalism, even through things such as the, Caribbean newspaper?
Absolutely, absolutely. The development of this city from let's say, like again, just like I said, even within 10 years, if we go back 20 years to like 2000 or so, the development of the city in terms of its multiculturalism, its acceptance, its inclusivity is evolutionary. Evolutionary. Like it's the leap from human to mutant in X-Men, if you want to
Mhm.
use
Yeah.
that analogy. It's crazy. It's crazy the things that we see and do now that would never have even been perceived in the 1990s or in the 1980s. Unbelievable. So I definitely credit the city itself as a whole, as a living organism, for doing better. And I think that is with the integration of all of these cultures. You know what I mean? Over the course of time, we've all come to love. And you know, really what I think it is, Nick? I think the key thing, I would love to say, because this is a literary podcast, I would love to say it's our art and our stories. It's not. It's our food.
Oh, big time.
Everybody
Yeah.
loves food, and the food connected us all. If you like this thing, if you like shawarma or you like this kind of Thai noodles, you were finding out about it. And all of a sudden, the culture became interesting to you because just because of that simple entrance, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And that opened the door to everything else. At the very least, anybody in the city can talk to anybody about the food. You know what I mean? And I think that led to some amazing stuff. We've seen some amazing collaborations. We've seen some incredible, like inclusive get together type of things happening within the city that would have never happened so long ago. It was very monoculture, I would say. For me, it felt monoculture growing up. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But now it is very, very different. And to see someone of any race, of any gender, of anything in any position is not a stretch. And I love that this is where we are. I love that this is where we are. And there's so much further to go. So getting to see that at the ground level with the paper and being out there in the streets and talking with people is just further validation that our city is becoming better and better and better, and we're cosmopolitan by no doubt. We are by no doubt cosmopolitan. We are a beacon to the world. The world looks at us and says, "How do you do this?" You know what I mean? Because there's only very few cities that are as cosmopolitan as ours. You know what I mean? New York,
Mhm.
London, Paris, maybe LA. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yes,
is an
less than a
interesting.
handful.
Yeah, it is interesting, now seeing Toronto up there amongst the names of things like of New York and LA and Paris, because that was not always the case for a long
No,
time. Is
no, we were
Canada
a
was often.
sleepy, snowy little town. When my mom came
Yeah.
to Trinidad, came from Trinidad here, this was the sleepy, snowy little town. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And now we're like a hub, a global hub. People look at us. We have big celebrities coming out of the city. We have so much
Yeah.
talent here, Nick. We have so much. Like the other in our other podcast, when I said I would not want to be anywhere else but in Ontario, Canada, I wasn't
Mhm.
joking. Like I love it here. I love it here. Look at this. It's not where I represent, Brazil. I've been here from the time
Yeah.
TVO Canada. I'm with
I'm
it,
wearing,
brother.
I've got the J's on today.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
and, it is such a delight to see that sort of, um, what's the word I'm looking for? That system coming together after so long and the everything that you can get now in Toronto. And you talked about food. I go to Toronto for 3 things. I go for usually for Fan Expo, the Blue Jays, and the food. Like, I will go anywhere in that city to have anything even remotely close to a decent meal because food is the great equalizer, truly.
It is. It is.
Everyone's
It's a
friends
great
around the table.
uniter.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
you were talking there about, being part of the paper and being on the ground. And in recent years, unfortunately, uh, I don't wanna say the respect for journalists has degraded a little bit, but I wanna say it's been skewed by certain publications that take liberties. Have you experienced any sort of not backlash per se, but is there any sort of, not even hardships, is there any challenges that you face as someone who's part of the media in that respect, even for a
Absolutely.
publication that's, local in a sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely, you do. And it's all about perspective in a lot of cases. I have had to encounter some situations where I was asked to cover an event favorably.
Mm.
which to me immediately set off a red flag to me.
Mhm.
So I know for my readers and for my own self that a key virtue in my writing is has to be honesty. If you can't believe what I'm saying, why are you even reading it? Like I try to give my readers the opportunity to see this is something editorial. This is my opinion on this, or this is something factual. This is what
Mhm.
I saw happen, kind of thing. So I try to give them at least that leeway. And I may be going this way. This is this kind of article, or I'm going this way. This is this kind of article. But either way, I'm trying to be as honest as I can, either about myself or about the situation or the subject. But I was sometimes asked to cover things favorably, to give them a nice kind of fluff job, as it's known
Yeah.
as in the business. You know what I mean? And I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. I left myself open. If it was good, then I wouldn't have to do a fluff job because it was good. But if it was
Mhm.
bad, then we would have to see. And I didn't have a great experience. And I had to be honest that I didn't have a great experience, and I was. And luckily, I'm blessed to have an awesome editor who believes in me. So she gave me the opportunity, always gives me the opportunity to be honest with myself, and as long as I'm respectable and
Mhm.
reasonable, then it's anything can happen. So I gave an honest review, which wasn't shining, and
Yeah.
I'm very sure they weren't happy with me, but at the very least, my readers could see this guy is telling us the truth. So when he says something good, it's good because he thinks it's good. If something's bad, he's gonna say he thought it was bad because of this. I didn't completely tear them apart. Like I left them
Mhm.
little things to try and do better about. But yeah, so sometimes it's challenging because you wanna be as receptive and you wanna be as open as possible, but you still have to kind of have a moral line that you kind of stay along in order to maintain believability and credibility.
Yeah. Um, that's so nice to hear because it is sometimes, as you know, in our current world, sometimes turning on the news can be incredibly depressing. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
but
And
let's
narratives
say
narratives can just be really manipulated a lot of times,
oh,
and
yeah.
there's a lot of editing and a lot of behind the scenes work that changes how things can look. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we have to go look to our peers in those situations. We have to at least look to our peers and hope that they have a similar mentality and can be like, okay, this is weird or this is not weird. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm. And that's so important, especially now. In the age of information, we are also living in an age of misinformation and misleading information as
hmm
well. But
and
let's
kind of
say
touched about. Sorry, just
oh,
to
no, no, no,
finalize
no,
that.
you go ahead.
Yeah, and just to
Yeah.
finalize on that, I mean, you kind of touched on it yesterday when we were talking about social media. We live in this age of this gilded kind of fabricated existence and reality that we all party on yachts with champagne and everybody's super buff and the sun is always in the perfect spot and you know what I mean? And we live in that age. And sometimes when you get information, like if when you read an article, all of these BuzzFeed articles that pop up in your feed and this article about that and this AI generated article about that, it's important to recognize real writing. It's important to recognize genuine writing as opposed to these things that are just being manufactured to kind of trigger the dopamine in your brain, trigger the endorphins in your brain, and get you to be like, ah, yes, that's what I wanted. Instead
Yeah.
of maybe challenging you. You know what I mean? Instead of maybe challenging you. And I mean, to go back to the sanity thief, it's meant to, this book is meant to challenge you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's meant to make you reflect. It's meant to make, like, those work pages are really meant to be written in. You know what I mean? We want you to write in them and read the book again and write in them again. And like, it's meant to be a multiple occasions. It's meant to be a practice behavior. You know what I mean? Those
Mhm.
steps that we try to get you to take, we want those to be practice behaviors. So it's when something challenges you, it can be scary a little bit at first, but I think it's worth it because it extends you as a person. It riches you as a person.
Yeah, those are all excellent points, and it's true. And you know, working in the education sphere like I do, it's hard to makes too to see that. But if we're when we talk about the next generation, one of the things we have to talk about is the next generation of journalists. If there was someone listening who really wants to get into journalism or really wants to be that type of, writer, not like the 1940s, like hard hitting journalist who's walking around like an old gumshoe,
Yeah, with
but
the press hat and yeah,
yeah, yeah, with the little card in it.
and with the
Um,
notepad, like, yeah, come on,
yeah.
Sarah, what have you seen? Yeah,
Exactly, just like, see? No,
yeah.
what was I gonna say? What would some advice you would be to offer, someone who's looking at to getting into that field?
You know what I would say? First, I would say follow your dream, follow your passion. If being that, doing that is your passion, follow it. But something that I always told my kids as well is follow your dream, but frame it in reality. You know what I mean? Give yourself a sandbox to work in, and then you can make anything happen, but you have to frame it in reality. And what I mean by that is you need to give yourself the tools, the resources, the ability, the time, all of those things to make those things happen. So for an up and coming journalist, or even just any type of creative writer, is you need to give yourself the tools to be able to do this. And one of my most valued tools is my vocabulary. I try my best. I love words. I'm a wordsmith. So putting words together is, like I said, it's like Lego. It's like building things, and I love it. So if that's what it needs to be, you need to familiarize yourself with words, and that's through reading dictionaries, finding new things, is give yourself as many tools as possible so that when it comes time for you to create your masterpiece, you have everything you need. You're never left wanting. So that would be my main advice is really boost up your literature, boost up your reading, boost up your vocabulary, because all of those words allow you to paint a much more beautiful painting.
That's excellent advice. Excellent advice, because the amount of essays I read that are just the same 4 words over and over again is ridiculous. Um,
Yes. You
I
need
got
to
I got
expand the vernacular. There are so
yeah,
many out there that you could use. There are so many words. I understand English is weird. English
yeah,
as a
oh,
language in comparison to other languages is weird. There are a lot of weird words that sound the same, mean the same, don't mean the same, kind of are the same, but don't. It is weird, but it is a beautiful language because there's just so much articulation in it. And I'm glad it's my first language.
it's it is the world's most complex dumb language is what I tell my students, and then I take them through read, 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 and read, read, read,
Yeah,
read, read,
yeah,
read,
right,
all
right.
those wonderful
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like
Oh,
read receipts and read receipts. I got 3 major questions for you left here, Sean, and
sure.
then we can, close her out, but, the big one being, another one for journalism specifically, working for a major news corporation is one thing and lends to less freedom. Do you find that you said you had an excellent editor and you said that you value honesty. Do you find that you have a certain level of freedom you wouldn't be able to obtain working for someone, say like CTV or Global?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just in my ability to find my own topics a lot of the time. I probably would not have that luxury were I in any type of mainstream type of media environment. It would be very hierarchical. The editor in chief would hand it down to his lowers, and they would hand it out
Mhm,
to the press staff, and then it would be distributed, and whatever you ended up getting is what you had to write about that day. I've done that too. I've been handed stuff and been like, I have no connection to this, but I have to find a way to write about it.
mhm,
But being working for this publication, being that it is smaller and being that it is a much more collaborative effort than a very strong, strict hierarchy, um, is the world, is the world. I get to it allows, I think this particular paper actually is cool because it allows a voice of dissonance, which a lot of my articles tend up to be. They kind of tend to be voices of dissonance where I'm disagreeing with probably modus operandi and whatever is the norm. You know what I mean? Status quo. Sorry if this Latin I was trying to use. It's
mhm.
I very much buck against the status quo, and a lot of my articles are such. And sometimes they might even be seen as subversive in some situation. A lot of my articles are about cannabis. I'm a very big cannabis advocate. So on many other papers would not even touch that with a 10-foot pole. As you can
Fair.
currently see, there is no paper that talks about this.
Mhm.
So I definitely value the environment that I'm in at this particular publication and with smaller publications. I don't see myself ever really wanting to go and work for one of the mainstream publications because of all the limitations and things that would probably be imposed upon me. Um, but I mean, hey, if they ever want to buy some of my articles to publish, I'll do that.
Money in the bank, right? That's
But I'm not dumb. I'm a reasonable fool.
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
but definitely being in this environment has been really, really a blessing to me because it's allowed
Mhm,
me full freedom to talk how I want to talk, and I don't have to kind of censor myself, which is very cool.
mhm. I said a second ago I had 3 questions for you, and apparently that was a lie because as you were talking, I came up with a different one. So I have 3 questions for you starting now. Um, at the beginning of your point, though, you said that you get to choose your topics. When you do choose your topics, are you looking for something in particular, or is it events that are presented to you that you go to and you're like, I'm going to write about this?
It's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, actually. So, there because I'm in the different communities, things present themselves to me. People will present themselves, be like, "Hey, I heard you write for the paper. How about you do something about this?" Or "This I
Mhm,
found out is really cool. Maybe you should do that." Or sometimes it's the paper itself who will kind of say, "Hey, we'd like you to go and check out this thing. There's this thing happening. Please go check it out for us." And give us something back. But I try and like I said, I always just try and pick something that is relevant. Because of the format of the newspaper, I know that format is for an older generation. You're not gonna get too many teenagers, 20 somethings, even 30 somethings who read a paper. You're pretty
mhm,
much looking about 40 and 50 up. So a lot of my time what initially was spent on trying to educate that demographic about more relevant things to try and keep them up to date so they can talk to their grandkids. You know what I
mhm.
mean? So I would try and do that. But eventually over time, I've started to try and branch out into different types of topics and stuff. So I try and keep it varied a little bit. So it's always engaging and always interesting.
That's awesome. I think that's the key is keeping people interested. That's the hardest part, I think.
It is. It is.
As and you're so right. Nobody very few people pick up papers. I think my students, I don't think have ever seen a newspaper, let alone be like, this is I might get this. Article 6 is pretty good. This is the byline here. I don't know. This reporter.
Did you finish a
Um,
crossword on page 37? I couldn't get that
yeah,
4 down. Couldn't get
yeah,
it.
yeah. Do you have the classifieds? I need those. I'm looking for a
Wow.
couch. Yeah. Yeah.
We be
Oh
speaking
man.
foreign language to them right now. We might as well be speaking Greek to
Yeah,
them, right?
they got no
They
idea.
have no
They
idea.
have no idea. They don't
None.
even have paper routes anymore. They just it's just some dude in a van who drives around. Um, oh, what was I gonna say? Right. So we're sitting here making fun of my students for never having newspapers, but we are unfortunately we're in this massive literary crisis, literacy crisis in Ontario specifically. Not even just Ontario, Canada wide, and North America. Let's say you're in front of a high school English class, like if you're in front of one of my classes, and you're asked to give one good reason why students should read and write. Sorry, what would you say? What would the advice you give would be?
Yes. Yeah, I was waiting for this
I know.
one. And I would be pleasured to come and speak in front of your class any day of the week to kind of
Mhm,
let them know how important reading and writing is. And really, I feel like reading and writing is how we can really define beauty. It's hard to do it without those tools. And in order for us to create beauty, in order for us to describe beauty, for us to explain beauty, we need words. And the writing and we live in an age of pictures now, which is it sounds sort of bizarre. It will sound bizarre to you kids, but realistically, Pictures can disappear, pictures can fade, but the words that we use, those will last beyond generations. You might tell your grandkids who will tell their grandkids a story. The art of oral tradition go dates back to time immemorial. And but being able to describe those things with words and reading and writing is so critical, and it will never be something that could be forgotten or become antiquated. Those are always going to be elements of the human condition and of human nature. So I think if you really want to understand the world and how beautiful it is, and you want to be able to describe it and explain it, you need to be able to read and write. It's just that simple.
That's very poignant and so well articulated because you're right. It is pictures fade all the time, right? And it's they don't understand. I handed a student a book a little while ago. It was what was it? It was Sherlock Holmes and the Hound of the Baskervilles, which the
Ah,
publication I gave them was from 1965. And
wow.
he read 3 pages and he gave it back and he went, "This is too hard." And I went, I I went, "Uh, I don't know what to give you now. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, I read
I don't know
aloud.
what to
Read
recommend."
aloud.
And
Maybe
that's
Hardy Boys. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I don't even think they'd be able to do that. The Hardy Boys are
I
kind
love
of
the
a
Hardy. I
drier
have
book, but they're
every
used to.
Hardy Boys book, Nick. You don't want to
Oh,
know. I have every Hardy Boys book. I
I'm
even have some
jealous.
Nancy Drew.
Yeah, that's hey, Nancy was a good detective. She was solving the hard ones. All right, that's all
Yep,
I'm gonna
he
say.
was the real one. He was the real one.
Um, oh man. All right, Sean. Last question I have for you here. We talked a lot about your work as a journalist, and we talked about the Sandy thief. And I asked you for any advice people getting into journalism, but I haven't asked you yet. Do you have any advice for people who are looking to publish a work such as the Sandy Thief or their own publication? Do you have any advice for people who are looking to do that?
Absolutely. And I think it was a valuable piece of advice that I received, and it helped me immensely. And it's something that motivates you. I think it is something that will allow you to begin the process. And that is just start where you are, man. You don't need all of these things. You don't need to set a whole bunch of benchmarks and milestones before I publish. I got to have this, and I've got to do this, and I should be this big, and I shouldn't even. No, brother, begin where you are. Wherever you are, that's where you started, and that's fine. And whatever you don't know, you will know. You will come to know. And so if you don't know anything about publishing like me, that's okay. Just start from where you are and build from there. You know what I mean? So just the key is just get started, to be honest. That's the motivating part. Be starting from where you are just allows you to get started. You don't need all of these things before you can get there. You know what I mean? And stop
Mhm.
limiting yourself. Just try. And if you fail, even if you try and fall, you're still further ahead than where you started. You know what I mean? So go for it. Just start where you are, and whatever you need to learn, you will pick it up along the way. There's no timeline for success. It can happen overnight. It can happen over 40 years. It depends. There are million trillion variables that decide success. So
Yeah.
let it happen. Let it happen. The universe will provide you with what you need. I'm a very firm believer in the universe providing. So just be open to what you need and open to opportunities. Don't let those pass you, but always just start from where you are. You don't need anything super special to get started publishing a book or whatever it is that you want to do in your life.
That was such for a second there, I actually felt like I'm like, I gotta do this in my regular life, whatever, just start where I am. Why am I worried about the future? What am I doing? That was
Yeah,
such
man.
good advice that I hope people who are listening to this, if and there's not many, but the people who do, if you're thinking about publishing, that is incredible advice, and you should take it because we try so hard to see the end goal before we even have to start that we're at the start line, right?
Yeah,
Um,
man. Yeah, man.
Sean, it's been such a pleasure having you here. We do have to cut it for time because we're close to
Yeah,
45
man.
minutes here, but
I love it.
it's
I just want to
always
thank you, Nick. I just want to appreciate you because this is an
oh,
amazing thing that you're doing. Keep doing it. No matter how few or how many people do it, stay real. You're one of the realists. I believe in you. And I think this is something that can go places, brother. Thank you for giving up us a
Oh,
place to talk about things like this.
Sean, you are far too kind to me. This is such a pleasure having you on here every time. And once again, anytime we have a chance to talk, I am happy to have you on here because it is always such a good time.
Anytime you come to
Everybody,
the
if
city,
you
brother, holler at me. Holler at me. I'm
absolutely,
around.
I haven't been out there in a little while, and I don't know when I'm going to get there next. But as you bet when I'm there, I'm letting you know for sure. Um,
Thank you, brother.
for those of you listening, by all means, please pick up The Sanity Thief, the first volume in the Seeker series. It's an excellent book, especially if you're someone who is dealing with imposter syndrome. It's always nice to have a secondary tool in your toolbox for helping get through it. And everyone should check out Vantage Point TO on Instagram, which is Sean's one of Sean's Instagram profiles, as well as the Seeker series on Instagram. And as always, everybody tune in for more exciting interviews, same bat time, same bat channel, and I will
Yeah,
see
I
you
love
all
it.
later.
I love it.
All right. Okay, stay
Do the bat
magical, my
signal.
friends. Yeah, yeah, just get sued by DC right away. That'd be
Yeah,
awful.
straight away. Cease and desist.